Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books. And I do mean a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And this is probably one of the biggest new comic book days that I have ever covered. There are a slew of books out this week. There are just a ton of books out, right? And a lot of really, really good ones, right? Lots of stuff beginning, lots of stuff ending, lots of excitement. Now, next week's going to be a lot, like a really, really tiny week. But this week was absolutely huge, okay? So, I got 50 comics here to talk about, so bear with me. Let's try to get right through this. We always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Doomsday Clock number 12. That's right, Doomsday Clock number 12 is here, the finale, and this is the finale. It's extra-sized. It ties it all together. It brings it all together. All the Watchmen stuff, all the DC stuff. How does it quite fit in with the current timeline? Maybe that's a little ambiguous, a little unclear, but there's a lot of setup in here and a lot of revelations about the future of DC as well. A lot of fun things, but a lot of real things too. Anyway, I think that what Geoff Johns and Brad Anderson and Gary Frank have done with this series has been monumental. They've kind of bridged Watchmen and DC. They asked that question back in the early days, like years ago when this thing first started. They asked a question, was it a good thing what Watchmen did to comic books, right? It's kind of like a meta commentary, right? Then you have this whole idea of the metaverse gets thrown in. So you're also, Geoff Johns is also working out some of the continuity glitches in DC and the different crisis events and stuff like that over time, right? To me, it all comes together. The story, the explanations, the character work, the nuances of the themes, it all comes together and it's all done so masterfully. I love this book. I cannot wait to sit down and read 1 through 12 all in one sitting. This book has been well thought out, it perfectly executed. The artwork is brilliant and it's such a great ending because it's an ending for a book. Watchmen's kind of a hopeless feeling book sometimes, right? And Doomsday Clock started kind of infecting the DC universe with that Watchmen vibe. And I think that's a meta commentary on what Watchmen did to comic books in general from the 90s onward, right? But to see it come back full circle, and now I don't want to spoil anything. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, this weekend. Anyway, Doomsday Clock number 12, it is here. No cause for alarm, no false alarms, I should say. Doomsday Clock number 12, the finale, is here. I still think it was well worth the wait. I know a lot of people had a problem with the series being late all the time. It didn't really bother me because every issue, to me, was an event. It was memorable, and it was exciting. And issue number 12, the finale, the conclusion, the ultimate issue, is just the same, if not more, because there's some really exciting things. And if you've been hearing terms like 5G being thrown around, there may be some interesting clues in this book as to other things. Anyway, we got a lot of books to cover. We got to go on through, right? Wonder Woman Dead Earth number 1 is a brand new one from DC Black Label. It's written and illustrated by Daniel Warren Johnson. Daniel Warren Johnson is the cat that did Murder Falcon over at Image Comics. Murder Falcon is an exceptionally awesome, bombastic, boisterously awesome comic book. It was great. If you've never read that, I highly encourage you to do so. If you like that work, or if you just like a new, interesting DC Black Label take on a familiar concept, check out Wonder Woman Dead to Earth. Basically, the Earth goes through an apocalypse. So this is a post-apocalyptic Earth. Wonder Woman wakes up slightly amnesiac. She's lost some of her powers, and she's in this post-apocalyptic world, and it's so much fun. It's got outrageous stuff happening in it, mutants and stuff like that, big monsters that she's fighting. It's thematically sound and relevant. Some really great stuff going on here with the character of Diana, even though she's slightly amnesiac. But anyway, I love this book. I thought it was cool. You're going to get some familiar tropes that you're used to, post-apocalyptic wasteland, gladiator type scenario, but you infuse it with the character of Diana. And Daniel Warren Johnson does such a great job of giving us very thrilling and exciting artwork and a cool concept, but really grounding it in a take on the character Diana that is 100% accurate to the true root and nature of the character. Wonder Woman Dead to Earth, yet another DC Black Label smash. Seems like DC's killing it on Black Label right now, especially with Joker Killer Smile. We have the second issue of Joker Killer Smile. Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, Jordi Belair. Does it get any better than this? I don't know if it really does. Apparently, I thought Doomsday Clock was a little bit better. It's a monumental achievement. Joker Killer Smile is like right up there. Top 5 comic book for me. I love this book. It's psychological, it's spooky, it's creepy, it's atmospheric. It's exactly what you've come to expect from Lemire and Sorrentino, who already kill it every month on the book Gideon Falls. Then they bring that brand of atmospheric and moody horror to the Joker. But not just to the Joker. This book is about a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something, right? And it's about how the Joker affects him. And it's such an amazing book. It's very, very effective. This book is unnerving and a little tilted, and you go right along with the main character's journey into madness in Joker Killer Smile. Great artwork, great format. I'm loving it. There you go. Suicide Squad. It's the launch of a new Suicide Squad book from DC. This one's written by Tom Taylor, so definitely worth checking out for that. Me, typically, when I was a kid, I was a huge Suicide Squad fan. I loved the Deadshot stuff. Had these issues with Penguin and Captain Boomerang, I remember, so I thought that stuff was cool. I liked the Sergeant Rock version of the Suicide Squad from the post-Worlds at War era of DC, early 2000s or something like that. But ever since Harley Quinn's been introduced into, Suicide Squad's pretty much become Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad, so I haven't really been digging it that much since then. This didn't feel like a Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad. It felt like a Suicide Squad book. It was a cool new direction, a new beginning for the team, some new twists, some new characters, some interesting stuff, and yes, just like the comic book cover promises, lots of meaningless death in Suicide Squad, and that's what we need, right? I think Tom Taylor did a great job with this one. It's all right. It's not the best book of the week, but it's a solid start to what could be one of the better runs of a modern-day Suicide Squad, in my opinion. We shall see. Art was decent. Writing was decent. Characters were decent. Lots of characters died, and that's what you expect out of Suicide Squad, right? Anyway, issue number 1 out this week. So we had some new beginnings. Now we got some endings. Batman 85. I know a lot of people are rejoicing this week because this is Tom King's last issue of the ongoing Batman title. Now, of course, he's going to kind of get his coda on Batman with the Batman Catwoman series, which is yet to be officially solicited, so we're not getting that until at least April or May, something like that. Anyway, Tom King's run on Batman's been very divisive. You either love it or you hate it. Most people aren't really quite in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle. Overall, I like the direction. I feel like 85 issues to make this one point about the character of Batman, though, seems a bit excessive. There was a lot of filler in there. The books read a whole lot better when you read them all together in one big chunks, like trade paperbacks and stuff like that. Issue to issue, it kind of got a little inconsistent. It was easy to get lost in the story. It's a very simple story. It's a very simple statement on Batman. Tom King's statement on Batman is that Batman is Batman because it's a death wish type thing. He's not a happy person. There you go. He doesn't think he deserves to be happy. There's a lot of cool nuance in that idea. However, 85 issues to tell this idea, and basically the idea is that Batman decides that he deserves to be happy. That's where the whole Batman-Catwoman relationship really starts blossoming even further, right? The wedding and all that kind of stuff, right? I like the ending. I thought the ending was a nice pull around. I will say, as a critique on the entire run, too long on... It's not a simple statement to say about Batman, but it was a long time, and we got that statement pretty early on. Anyway, I am actually very satisfied with the way that everything turns out. I thought the final issue was one of the better issues of the run. I thought it was great, decent artwork, and now that the statement is over, we can move on to James Tynion's run on Batman. I've read the first 2 issues of that, and it's pretty decent, and there's a little prelude to that run at the end of this issue. So, an ending and a beginning. Another writer's last statement on Batman. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, Batman Last Night on Earth, Book 3. This is the final book of this exercised 3-issue miniseries that I've absolutely just loved. It's kind of like an alternate future reality type thing. Batman wakes up, he's young again. It's because he's a cloned Batman. The world's this post-apocalyptic wasteland. There's this Omega Batman. It's like supposedly another clone of Batman who somehow is super been twisted into like this nihilistic view of the world in Gotham and stuff like this. So you got like this young, new, fresh Batman is very idealistic versus an old and beaten down and really Batman who's just kind of given up almost in a way. Or it's just really cool stuff. It's kind of like almost similar to what Tom King was doing in here with the Thomas Wayne stuff. But I feel like in 3 issues, they made a more solid and more concise and more elaborate statement on Batman, the mythology behind him, the Justice League, his friends, and all that stuff. Snyder and Capullo, this is their last Batman work, supposedly. I'm sure this is not the last book that they're going to be working on together with Batman in it, but the last Batman book. Anyway, Batman Last Night on Earth, DC Black Label. It's Capullo, it's Snyder. If you like their Batman stuff, I think you'll like this. To me, this has been some of the best Snyder Capullo Batman stuff, have been these 3 issues. It was a solid ending. I really liked it. Lots of big, monumental moments in this issue, and some really, really cool revelations and ideas. Really liked it. Speaking of Scott Snyder, he's nearing the end of Justice League. This is Scott Snyder's penultimate issue of Justice League, issue number 38. This issue was awesome. A balls-to-the-wall fight between Lex Luthor and the Justice League. Some interesting developments, some really cool stuff happening. There's one more left. Once again, it seems like maybe hope's coming back on the side of the Justice League, but we know because of some of the stuff that's coming up, it's probably not going to end too well for the Justice League. I definitely think Luthor's going to get the upper hand when it's all said and done, at least for a little bit. But anyway, Justice League number 38, some of the best Jorge Jimenez pencils on this book yet. He does have a fill-in artist too for the first bit and the last bit or something, but the Jimenez stuff is so powerful, so striking, and there's some great moments in this issue that if you've been reading the Snyder, Tynion, and Company Justice League run from the beginning, ooh, things we've been waiting for, and they're very exciting, and they're very, very cool. Batman Superman number 5 wraps up its initial story arc, written by Joshua Williamson, David Marquez on the artwork, and Alexander Sanchez on the coloring. Really like the artwork, very solid, very crisp. The story's been okay, it's been interesting. The way the whole Batman Who Laughs infected stuff is kind of played out, is kind of not quite worked so organically for me. A lot of this stuff just kind of feels quick and like all of a sudden enforced, right? Mostly the infected stuff, but this is a decent wrap up. But what this has really been doing, this whole purpose of this this is not a 5-issue series because it's going to continue, but this 5-issue initial story arc, it was a long day, trust me, of Batman versus Batman Superman. I think that the whole point of this has been to set up the idea of the Batman Who Laughs and the infected, and they can kick Batman and Superman's ass, and now we can set that up for something to come, right? If you want a little bit more information about how the Commissioner got infected, don't expect to get it in these pages. This is an okay issue. These infected one-shots haven't really been doing much for me. I do think that this is one of the stronger ones because it gets in some interesting ideas, a lot about Gordon, his perspective, especially this Jokerized perspective, some interesting dynamic there with him and Barbara, but this was kind of skippable again, for sure. For sure. But all of this blows up into this, right? So Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen, number 1. The finale begins here, they say. This is the ultimate showdown between Apex Lex and the Batman Who Laughs. That's what's been happening, right? So this issue does kind of spoil issue number 39 of Justice League, which comes out in a couple weeks. So apparently, like, you find out, Luthor's still here. So, Anyway, I like this issue. Lots of cool setups. Steve Epting's artwork, so beautiful and majestic. James Tynion does a great job of taking on the story, bringing these two opposing forces together, explaining how it happened before, what happened then, and what's going on right now. I loved it. I thought it was great. If you've been following this whole gist of the Justice Doom War and what Snyder and company have been doing with the Justice League, with the Lex Luthor stuff, with the Man Who Laughs, Batman Who Laughs stuff, this is essential. You definitely got to read that. If you're reading Justice League, you have to read this. And now you're like, oh man, should I have been reading all that Batman Who Laughs stuff? Well, apparently. But we already knew that, right? Because this has been planned from the beginning, and you can tell. Legion of Superheroes number 2. I'm done. I don't like this. I have never responded well to a Legion of Superheroes book. Now, I hear some good things about certain runs, and I'm willing to check them out. But this one is just falling flat for me. Brian Michael Bendis feels like he's rushed into this. I'm confused. I don't know a lot. I don't know. I've read a lot of Legion stuff that I've tried to get into. I'm familiar with the characters. I'm familiar with the concepts. Some new interesting things here, but I don't know. Great artwork, but the story just didn't do anything for me. It just kind of meandered around. I don't know. Shazam number 9 is here. Speaking of late Jeff Johns books, Shazam number 9 is fantastic. I really like what Jeff Johns has been doing with this book. He's really taking the mythology of Shazam and he's really elaborating it and stretching it out and making it more big and robust, right? And I think he's doing a great job with it. You get introduced to the Wowzender lands here, and that's a really cool idea. I just love everything that's going on in this book right here. It's the family dynamic, the relationships between the characters. The artwork has been shifting and changing between a lot of different hands here lately, but it all works with the structure of the story and all the different magic lands and stuff like that. That's just a really cool concept too. This is really interesting stuff, and I really think that a lot of the Shazam sequel stuff is probably going to pull from this, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Aquaman number 55 is here. This book is an okay, kind of lackluster ending to the whole big Black Manta thing. I really kind of feel like Kelly Sue DeConnick and company weren't planning on doing a Black Manta story, and then DC editorials like, you're the villain, Black Manta, we got to do something, so they just kind of put him in there. And some interesting stuff going on. He's got this big mech suit, and the AI is based on his father, so you got some kind of interesting stuff going on there. But overall, it was all right. The artwork was great, but the book's starting to just wear thin on me a little bit. It's a little watery. I don't know. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is here with issue number 6, and this to me still is one of the most underrated books on the shelves right now, especially from one of the big two, especially from DC. Matt Fraction, Steve Lieber and company doing such a great job on this one. It's quirky, it's weird, it's absurd, it's eccentric, and it's exactly what it should be, because I hate Jimmy Olsen, but this book has made me kind of charmed by Jimmy Olsen and his innocent stupidity. But the way the book is told, the structure of it, it's very humorous. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's still telling some serious stories, some really interesting stuff. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 6 is here, and you get more interaction between Batman and Jimmy Olsen, and that's always fun. From DC Black Label, Joe Hill's Hill House, we have The Low, Low Woods, which is a new one that debuts. I don't think this is as strong as Basket Full of Heads, definitely not as strong as the Dollhouse family, but this was still interesting. It's written by Carmen Maria Machado. Danny is the artist. Danny was the artist, for instance, on Coffin Bound, a great, surreal, weird, crazy book that came out this year. And Tamara Bonvillain on the coloring. I like the artwork. I like the characters. It's an interesting story. It doesn't quite hook you in just yet, but then again, Basket Full of Heads didn't really kind of hook me until issue 2, so I'm willing to give this a little bit more room to breathe. I thought the story was cool. It was atmospheric. It's got body horror in there. It's got like atmosphere horror. I don't know what you would want to call that, like, but it's got some interesting stuff in it, but nothing has hooked me in. It's basically about these two young ladies. They're friends. They wake up in a theater. They have a lot of time missing. There's a lot of weirdness going on in their town. It's like a poor town, a mining town, and filled with tragedy and disaster. So they're really making this atmospheric and setting the scene, and it's like city horror almost in a way. I don't know. There's something about it. Really did like it, but it does need it needs to hook me in by issue 2. But Low, Low Woods number 1 was a pretty decent start. Basket Full of Heads number 3, though, was such a great issue. One of the best issues of the series. This one keeps getting better and better. A lot of stuff becomes more clear. A lot of the characters, there's a great character conversation here it's just great. It's fantastic. I really like this one. This one's written by Joe Hill, Leo Max on the artwork, Dave Stewart, one of the best colorists that's ever been coloring comic books ever. Basket Full of Heads is really fun. It's even funny at times, and I know that's intentional because we know Joe Hill and we know his work, but Basket Full of Heads to me is really a fun book. I'm liking it. It's not as creepy and atmospheric, but it definitely has a lot of fun with the genre. Issue number 3 is out this week. Superman Smashes the Klan, issue number 2 is out this week, and I'm going to be honest with you, I did not read this because it's super huge, and I didn't want this video to come out like on a Thursday or Friday, so I'm just going to have to read this, and maybe we'll talk about it next week. But I did want to let you know that Superman Smashes the Klan, number 2 is out. I loved issue 1, so I'm very excited about that one. Let's jump over to Marvel. Dawn of X. Marauders number 4. Every X book, except for X-Men, comes out this week, by the way. Anyway, Marauders number 4, another great issue. I'm loving it. You got a great moment here with Storm. I love this whole concept. The Marauders, Kitty Pryde leading like a team of ex-pirates, basically, out trying to help the mutants who can't make it to Krakoa. Maybe their governments, maybe their societies are like keeping them trapped. Maybe they're keeping them kind of enslaved or something. So it's cool to see that. You got a lot of stuff in here with Kate and Bishop. She wants Bishop Bishop to be her Red Bishop over at the Hellfire Club. That's going to be some really interesting, exciting stuff that happens. But I'm loving the characters. I'm loving the use of those characters, and I really think that this has been one of the best Dawn of X books, has been Marauders. Duggan and Company doing a great job on that one. Excalibur is here with issue number 4. Still not really liking this book. This book probably flowed the best out of the 4 issues so far, but I'm still just not that engaged or interested in the story. I really want to be. I'm a newly crowned Gambit and Rogue fan because of the Kelly Thompson series, so I want to see some of that. Not really getting what I'm looking for. I'm interested in Captain Britain, you know, as Betsy as Captain Britain. It's all right. I'm supremely interested in what Apocalypse is up to. And I'm a huge Jubilee fan. Not really a Richter guy, though. So maybe that's why the Richter stuff in here was the best parts. But I don't know. Excalibur's wearing thin on me. To me, this is one of the weaker ones from Dawn of X. X-Force, though, I think now I can officially say 4 issues in, may be the best Dawn of X book. I loved this issue. It's so great. Each issue of this has been big, and it feels as momentous as an issue of Hoxpox, right? This one, to me, is keeping that energy, that momentum, that dynamic flow of ideas that Hoxpox gave us, I think is continuing on through X-Force. I think this is where we're getting a big gist of the upcoming threat. I think all these different factions that are playing against the X-Men are all representing one thing. Now the X-Force have to respond. That's right. The X-Men decide Krakoa needs a CIA. They need a Wetworks division. They need to approach this like a country. They need to do it a little bit differently. That's what's going on in X-Force. They got a field team. They got their team of thinkers. I'm loving this book. It's so fun, so great. A lot of quiet council moments. I think that this so far has been the most key book in Dawn of X. But don't sleep on X-Men, obviously, because Hickman's writing that one. New Mutants number 4 is here with a solo Ed Brisson written issue that picks up on the storyline that was started in the last issue that focuses in on Armor and Glob going to go check in on Angel and Beak from the new X-Men days, and then you got Boom Boom just jumping in, causing catastrophe and shit, right? New Mutants is something I'm really, really liking. It's going to be jarring at first that, you know, the first story was dealing with the New Mutants going to the Shi'ar Galaxy to try to get Cannonball to come back with them, but then all of a sudden it switches modes back to Earth, back to Krakoa, dealing with Armor and Glob and Boom Boom and the others. And even though it's a complete gear shift in the set of the setting of the story and all that stuff, I still think it fits. It still fits with the New Mutants. Like I said, this is going to be about the youthful mutants, but I really liked issue number 4. I'm a big Glob fan. I got to give a shout out to Dylan over at Dylan's Comic Book Rants. That's my Glob homie right there. New Mutants number 4 out this week. And Fallen Angels number 4 is here. What started out so promising to me, and I'm a huge Hill fan, but what started out so promising to me has really quickly become, in my opinion, probably the worst Dawn of X book right now. Now, I think this is only going 5 issues, and it's going to go away. Maybe it will come back one day. This one, though, did set up some interesting stuff. You get, like, this new villain character or something. They look really fucking badass, to be honest with you. But anyway, Fallen Angels number 4. See, I've been on that Jim Mint channel too much. I'm starting to curse a little bit more. Anyway, Fallen Angels number 4 was okay. I thought it was kind of weak. The story's getting weaker. I'm getting less interested in it. It feels more kind of just thrown together and insignificant. But that's just me. Annihilation Scourge number 1 is out this week, and this is Omega number 1, I should say. What this does is this wraps up the whole Annihilation Scourge thing. The Alpha one-shot that kicked everything off, it felt rushed. I just didn't really get into it. All the one-shots in between were awesome, and I loved every single one of them. Now we get back to Omega, and to me, it's just like Alpha. It's a rushed, kind of thrown together, muddied, trek through an obvious conclusion. How are all the one-shots so awesome, but the 2 one-shots that book in the series, which start the series and end the series, I think this would have been better if it would have been handled much like the original Annihilation or Conquest, where they had a series, a mini-series, and they just kind of slowly built it up. This story could have been bigger. It needed more room to breathe. I just think this was a bad way to tell the story, especially when the opening and the closing one-shots to me felt rushed, muddy, and just kind of thrown together. I don't know. But it's not as bad or as disappointing as the 2099 stuff. Amazing Spider-Man 36 is here. Hated this issue. I thought it was boring. I didn't like it. I've been a defender of Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. At first, when people started to kind of falling off of it a little bit, I stuck right through Hunted. I thought Hunted was a little bit of an engorged story, a little too long. It kind of went on way too long. This book's starting to really lose me. Starting to really, really lose me. And with this 2099 stuff, they're in danger of me not picking up the next one. I don't know. That is not cool. This is the 2099 Omega one-shot. It wraps everything up. I don't know. The artwork was cool in it. Aside from that, I don't know. They explain kind of like what's going on, but not really. Man, we're just screwed. Fans of 90s 2099, we're just screwed now. I'm so disappointed in that. Spider-Man number 3 is here from J.J. Abrams and son Henry Abrams, written by with artwork by Sarah Pichelli, Dave Stewart on the coloring. The artwork, just like most Pichelli books, starts off kind of strong. And you're like, oh, I've misjudged her. Then you're like, oh no. It's already been delayed. We know that issue 4 is going to be delayed a little bit. The artwork on here feels rushed. It feels like it's kind of forced, thrown together. It feels like she was in a hurry, right? The story is still pretty decent. It's interesting. It's like an alternate future take where Spider-Man's son becomes the next Spider-Man after a whole bunch of tragedy strikes the Parker family because, of course. This has got some interesting bits in it and stuff like that. The story's kind of neat, but like I said, the artwork just kind of feels a little bit thrown together, a little inconsistent, a bit rushed. Spider-Man number 3 to me was all right. Issue number 1 was a really cool book. It kind of really upended some of my expectations, but 2 and 3 have just, I don't know. They haven't been that exciting to me. Maybe definitely something that will be better read when it's all collected in its 5 issues entirety or whatever. Donny Cates' final issue of Guardians of the Galaxy here. Number 12, some really cool Rocket Raccoon stuff. Aside from that, I would say that Donny Cates' Guardians of the Galaxy run has been slightly disappointing to me. I would have liked to seen more blossom out of this. There is kind of a interesting revelation that happens in here. And, in the solicitations, they said that all this stuff Donny Cates had been doing, Death of the Inhumans, and Silver Surfer Black, and Thanos Wins, and Cosmic Ghost Rider, it was all building up to this, right? No, not really. This is just the end of the Guardian story he was telling. The only thing that's been built up to is that there's like this really self-congratulatory thing that they do at the end where they have all these splash pages recapping all those stories. I don't know. I mean, it's cool. I would just say overall, and I do like what Donny Cates is doing at Marvel, but the Guardians of the Galaxy just never quite hit me like some of his other work. Like his Thanos book. Come on. King Thor is here. Speaking of endings, this is Jason Aaron. I almost said Johnny Aaron. Anybody know Johnny Aaron? Is he still writing Thor? Anyway, Jason Aaron, King Thor number 4. This is Jason Aaron's last Thor comic book, his last statement. He's been writing Thor for a long time. I think he's had an exceptional run. It's going to stand up there with Kirby and Simonson. Absolutely. I love this ending. Really fun about the importance of story, the importance of Thor in Marvel cosmology. Really cool stuff. Does a great job of wrapping up that far-flung future story, but also telling other stories from possible futures or near futures or the past and the present. Lots of stuff in here. This is, in fact, a giant celebration of not just Thor, but of Jason Aaron's run on Thor as well. King Thor number 4, I loved it. Thought it was great. Daredevil number 15 is out this week. Also, King Thor 4 has some amazing artwork on it. Esad Ribic, you got Gabriel Walta, you got a whole bunch of people. Russell Dodderman. Some really, really cool artwork there. Daredevil number 15 is here. An interesting issue. My favorite stuff that Chip Zdarsky's doing in the book Daredevil right now is all involving Kingpin. He's doing some really interesting stuff with Matt Murdock, even though it's starting to appear to me more and more like in issue 15 that his take on Elektra is a little bit kind of Netflixy, which I don't really like that take. I want a little bit more Millery take on Elektra. I don't know. But anyway, the story's really cool. Some really great moments involving Wilson Fisk, though. And I think Zdarsky's run has been near perfection on every page that the Kingpin is spotlighted. But other than that, there's some really good stuff, too. Basically, Daredevil's trying to relearn how to be Daredevil, and Elektra's kind of teaching him some stuff. Again, I guess. But the Wilson stuff's definitely worth more than the price of admission. Avengers number 28 is here, continuing the story where we're looking for the new Star brand. Got some real powerful artwork by Ed McGuinness, featuring some of the former Heralds of Galactus, like Terrax and Firestorm. Really, Fire Lord. Really cool to see these characters return and see them. I'm a big FF, Cosmic Galactus kind of guy, so that's really cool. This is all right. It's interesting. The Star brand has appeared. It's this big mystery. Jason Aaron's really kind of letting this one go for a minute. Like, who's the new Star brand? We want to know. It's supposed to be a big deal. Some great moments with Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider in here. But other than that, Avengers hasn't maintained its momentum that was kind of promised in its initial story arc. We've already felt that. There's Blade's in it for a couple pages, though, so that's pretty cool. Future Foundation's here with its final issue, number 5. A satisfying conclusion. It's sad to see this book go. I love these characters. I love Jeremy Whitley. I think he did a great job with these, and I would like to see more of these characters utilized in the Marvel Universe in the future. Speaking of the Marvel Universe, History of the Marvel Universe, number 6 is out. This is the final issue. Mark Waid, Javier Rodriguez, Alvaro Lopez did a great job. Meticulously researched, beautiful page layouts, amazing, brilliant, vibrant colors. History of the Marvel Universe number 6, a very satisfying conclusion of what's been a nice, fun retread through Marvel history. Speaking of Marvel history, have you ever read The Eternals by Jack Kirby? If not, there's a facsimile edition of issue number 1 because an easy-to-get book a few years ago, now it's getting up there. It's a hot book now because of the upcoming movie. But if you've ever wanted to check out some unbridled Kirby cosmic awesomeness, check out this Eternals number 1 facsimile edition. Hopefully, they'll do a collected edition soon. I would love to dig into some old school Kirby Eternals. Star Wars, The Rise of Kylo Ren. There's another Star Wars book out this week. It's called Empire Ascendant. I think it's a one-shot with a bunch of different creators. I think it's kind of the bridge between the previous Star Wars series, which all took place after New Hope, and the new one, which I think is Empire or something like that. Anyway, I did read this one because I like Kylo Ren. I just rewatched Force Awakens and Last Jedi this week, and I love me some Kylo Ren. So I'm really interested in knowing more about his backstory, who the Knights of Ren are, and all that kind of stuff. Then the issue kind of let me down. It was all right. It's all stuff I could have just filled in the gaps already. I mean, it's probably why they didn't show it in the movie. But I do want to know more about these damn Knights of Ren. Maybe we'll find out about that later in this week. But anyway, if you want to know more about Kylo Ren's backstory, sure, read that book. Why not? Over at Dark Horse, we got Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. This is from the world of Black Hammer. So Black Hammer's finished its initial story, but there's a whole world of characters and possibilities that Jeff Lemire is going to play with. Tansi Sanjik, Steve Wands, Jeff Lemire. This was awesome. One of the best first issues of a miniseries from the Black Hammer world yet. This book is a top 10 book this week. It's got great artwork. It's basically like, what if Punisher... what if Punisher saved Batman, right? Well, okay, so what if Punisher showed up when Bruce Wayne's parents died and took Bruce Wayne in to be his sidekick? That's kind of what this is. Really cool stuff. The way the story's told, the structure, it's Jeff Lemire. You know it's going to be great. The artwork in this book is absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I loved it so much. Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy out this week from Dark Horse. Strayed number 5 is out this week from Dark Horse. A very satisfying conclusion. This has been a really fun one about a cat who can astral travel and of course the evil empire that wants to use that ability to their own benefit. A satisfying conclusion. A big, high energy, cosmically infused finale. Big, bold splash pages and big, bold colors by Juan Doe. The artwork in this has been amazing. Carlos Giuffoni's done a great job with this one. It's a very cool concept, and it's done very cool in execution as well. Fantastic stuff. From Boom Studios, Folklords number 2. I loved Folklords number 1, and I loved Folklords number 2. You got Matt Kent and Matt Smith and Crystal Halloran. Fantastic team. The artwork is splendid. The coloring is amazing and subtle. No, subtle's probably the wrong word. It's subtle in its flair. I don't know how to... It's beautiful. I think Chris O'Halloran is one of the best colorists in the business right now. He's the colorist of Ice Cream Man, for instance. Anyway, Matt Kent, Matt Smith and company doing a great job in here. So now we got this idea. It's a fantasy world. This kid's in it, and when they turn 18, they go on a quest. His quest is to find the folklords. He believes that our real scientific and technology-based world exists, and now he's out on this forbidden quest to go and find it. So he goes off into an enchanted forest, and he comes across enchanted foresty type things. Really cool book. I'm really liking it. And Bueller, your take on this, your whole thing about like the village, I think you might be onto something. Folklords number 2, fantastic. Once and Future number 5 is out this week. The penultimate issue of the initial story arc of Once and Future. Dan Morum, Karen Gillan, Tamara Bonvillain, love it. Vibrant, bold colors, crisp, clear, precise artwork, and a very, very fast-paced script that handles exposition fluidly and really just throws you into this world, and it's so much fun. It's action-packed. This is like the best parts of Indiana Jones kind of thrown together with a supernatural tinge to it. I'm loving it. This stuff is amazing. Once and Future has been a standout book from Boom this year. It does not stop with issue number 5. It continues. Speaking of Boom, Klaus and the Life and Times of Joe Christmas. So this is like a calendar. It's an advent calendar, basically. And what it is it tells the life and times of Joe Christmas backwards, a page at a time. There's no dialogue. It's all just, it's a calendar. It's an actual freaking calendar, to be honest with you. It's crazy, isn't it? But as you go through it, Dan Mora's artwork is amazing. Grant Morrison is suggesting, I guess, the scenes, because he is credited as the writer, obviously. But you do have the story of this dude, Joe Christmas, unfold. And when you get to the end, it's very touching. It's very heartwarming. I really enjoyed this. Plus, even though there's no words or nothing, some of these single pages in here are telling more wild stories than other comic books do in 6 issues. And that's just something I come to expect from Grant Morrison. Anyway, Klaus, The Life and Times of Joe Christmas, out this week. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 46 is here. Betrayal, Tragedy, Revelations, Misunderstandings. Lots of fun stuff going on in the Power Rangers books right now. Ryan Parrott and company are doing such a great job of taking, honestly, a very silly kids property here in the United States and really infusing it with some of that dynamic energy and intense melodrama that fuels Super Sentai and makes me like that so much. So this is a more Sentai-ified version of Power Rangers, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. But we're on the White Rangers, we got the Omega Rangers, you got all kinds of stuff. People doubting themselves, people thinking too much of themselves, and like I said, betrayal and tragedy. Great stuff in the pages of Power Rangers number 46 out this week. So, Mark Millar had that Project Xmas thing. Nobody knew what it was going to be. It's going to be some Miller World book. Nobody knows what it's going to be. This is it. If you don't want to know, stop watching. It's American Jesus. That's right, American Jesus, the New Messiah. This is the sequel to American Jesus, The Chosen, which originally came out as The Chosen. I think I read parts of that way back in the day. It's been a long time. Anyway, Mark Millar, Peter Gross, they're back with American Jesus. Why? Well, because Netflix picked up all the Miller World stuff and they're doing an American Jesus show. But it's basically like, what if Jesus came about today, right? And what this is doing, because book 1 was about that, and book 2, it seems to be, it's about the birth. It's about the mother, right? And so that's some interesting stuff. I really liked this issue. I thought it was solid. Thought it was cool. Even though I barely remember the first one, I still jumped right in and checked this out. So I think there's a graphic novel collection of the first book, which is called The Chosen. And this is the second one. Really, I love that Frank Quietly cover, so I had to pick that one up. Anyway, but that's what it is. American Jesus, New Messiah. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. That's crazy. Family Tree number 2 is here. Jeff Lemire's got some killer books out this week, y'all. By the way, Joker Killer Smile. No pun intended. Family Tree is the other one. And what was the other one we just talked about? Skulldigger, right? Family Tree number 2 takes the idea and set up from issue number 1, and it just really just kicks up the pace, kicks up the momentum. It explains a lot of stuff, but it does so through story, through action, through intent. Really great book. I loved it. Phil Hester's artwork, it all perfectly is capturing this cool thing. It's about this little girl, and all of a sudden, as craziness starts going on, she starts like slowly turning into a tree. And there are these people after her, because for some reason, right? Great issue, great stuff. Family Tree number 2, the mystery deepens, and lots of revelations. Middle West number 13 is out this week from Image Comics. Image also has a great week this week. Middle West has been such an amazing book. Scotty Young's best work to date, in my opinion. Jorge Corona on the artwork. Jean-Francois Ballot. Nick Picos rounding out that creative team. I love this book. It's so great. This book, we're definitely hitting the underworld vibe. The hero in the underworld. It's toil. It's grueling. It's not good, right? But big things are happening, lots of setups. This is a very subtle fantasy world, and I love Scotty Young's doing just the tiniest bit of world building with an issue like this, and it does a great job. The artwork's great. This book has been so amazing. Middle West is out this week with issue number 13, another fantastic Image book, Farmhand. Farmhand number 12, more mystery, more revelations, more intrigue, really fun stuff, great character dynamics with the family and the town and the politics involved. Farmhand is such a great book. It's about this dude who can grow body parts, and it doesn't go easy, I'll tell you that. It goes crazy. You get all kinds of crazy creatures coming out of the woodwork now. It's ripping this family apart. It's ripping this town apart. It could very well rip the world apart. Rob Guillory has been killing it on Farmhand, issue 12. No exception out this week. From IDW, we have Wellington number 1. This is kind of like an alternate history type thing. What if Duke Wellington was a monster hunter? Simple idea. simple execution. This book didn't really do much for me. It didn't grab me. It was one of the first ones I read too, so I wasn't super bogged down on reading too much. But it was all right. It had some really cool artwork, but the story just felt stilted and stagnant. Didn't really do much for me. Read Only Memories #1 is a new one from IDW. This is a little bit more of an interesting story than Wellington was. It's futuristic. It's about this private investigator in this futuristic society. It did feel a little verbose. It kind of bogged itself down a little bit because I just don't feel like the flow of the verbose narrative really kind of mixed well with this very dynamic and kinetically charged artwork and coloring that I absolutely loved. I loved the artwork. I loved it. It was an interesting enough setup for a story, but nothing really stood out to me except for the artwork. The story just kind of meandered around. I mean, it was fine, it was solid, but it wasn't like anything I hadn't seen before. But the artwork was amazing in that. Read Only Memories. If you bought one IDW book this week, though, I would highly recommend Mountainhead #3. This is a top 5 book for me. This book was awesome. I loved it so much. Sean Lee's Ryan Lee, Doug Garbark, and Sean Lee. This book was awesome. I did get an early look at this. Was not able to get an advanced review video film for it, but Mountainhead #3 is amazing. I loved issue #1 and I loved issue #2. This story has gone into places I wasn't expecting. There's a lot of different moving parts in this story. It's all coming to a head. It's about this kid. He was raised by this dude who he believes is his father. He finds out it's not his father. They were living off the grid. He filled his head with all these conspiracy theories and lies. He gets separated from that dude and sent to his real family, the family that he never knew. And so you got this drama going on there. Meanwhile, you got this mountain sickness affecting this small, tiny town that's usually something like a Canadian version of Mayberry or something. So you get all these weird moving pieces coming together. You got this family drama. You got this dude coming back for his son. You got this dude up there on the mountain coming down going crazy. Mountainhead #3 is amazing. The artwork is detailed, textured, angular, different. It's unique. It's a different style. It's not realistic, but it's realistic in the way that it's showing the craziness of the story and the intensity of the emotions that's going on. Mountainhead #3, fantastic. Loved it. From Valiant Comics, we have Visitor #1. I read this one, and I already kind of forget what it was about. Didn't really like it. Apparently, it's like Valiant's version of Event Leviathan. I don't know. Just joking. Not really. I remember this like there's an attack at the UN or something like that, and it's an attack on like the Japanese embassy, and they got the secret project or something. I don't know. So I didn't really remember it. So I didn't really like it that much. From Vault Comics, we have The Black Stars Above, issue #2. I thought issue #1 was really cool. Lovecraftian, cosmic, existential horror. Issue #2 was even better. So now that Eulalie has decided to take this mysterious package that she's unfortunately already looked in and seen some creepy stuff, she's decided that she's going to take this package and she's going to go across this northern wood wilderness and possibly die from exposure because she's trying to escape from her family. But she's got this crazy Lovecraftian type thing with her, and it's affecting her, right? And so one of my favorite things about Lovecraft's stories is that slow descent into madness that you can tell from the narrator, and you're getting it here. Lonnie Nadler's doing such a great job of making that known and prevalent and making it also nuanced and subtle. Gina Chaw, the artwork is amazing. Brad Simpson's coloring on top of it, and Hassan Othman El Hal, one of the best letters in the business. This is a perfectly crafted comic book that does exactly what it intends to do, which is drive you a little mad as well, because you got something real special there hidden away in between those covers. And Vault Comics smell the best. Speaking of Vault, cult classic creature feature #3 is here. Elliot Rahall's big, just love letter to cheesy 80s sci-fi horror campy type stuff. This book is filled with teenage melodrama, absurd tragedy, grotesque skeletal monsters that crawl out of people's mouths, and slugs and gross stuff, and just all the stuff that you love in a great cult horror film, all thrown together in one nice package. John Bibbins on the artwork, and the rest of the team absolutely nails it. I love this book. I have so much fun with it. #3 out this week. Also from Vault, Money Shot #3, continuing this story. It's a little bit like Zack and Miri in a sci-fi setting, something like that. It's not my favorite Vault comic, but it is still okay. I think it's pretty decent. I think they approach the topic of the story irreverently, but with class. Does that make sense? Anyway, Money Shot #3 is out. And from Mad Cave Studios, we have Show's End #5. This is the final issue of this book. I just wanted to say I really liked this book. I thought it was great. This one really took me by surprise. It's about this little girl. She joins a sideshow. She's actually some kind of demonic, beastie monster type thing. Lots of nuance in this book. Lots of tragedy. The story went in places I didn't quite expect. And that's something that I really liked. I thought this was a really solid one. So if you missed out on this one, I think the trade comes out February of next year. Definitely check it out. Show's number 5 out this week. That's what I read. That's a lot. That's what I thought about it. What do you think? What are you excited for? What are you reading? You excited for Doomsday Clock? You excited for Tom King's Batman to end? You excited for Scott Snyder's stuff? What are you excited about? What you liking? What you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP, where you can unlock early access to stuff like the weekly comic book review, Comics Revisited, and gain access to exclusive content like the PCP After Hours podcast, and the weekly comic book review in a downloadable audio file. So, there you go. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.